This is Jason from McGuire's Clocks, and today we're going to be going over how to set up the Howard Miller Diana model grandfather clock. Now I've chosen this clock because someone requested a setup video for it, and because out of all of them it's probably one of the more difficult ones. It's not hard, just a little bit more steps to it. Things aren't quite as visible as on some of the other models. So I'm going to go ahead and start by going over some of the things you'll find once the company unloads it and unpacks it for you. So to start with, your pendulum and weights. This is your weight set here. It's going to come in a styrofoam box. There'll be another half to it just like this one. Your key and your crank to wind it with will be in there. The two halves will be taped together. You can just slice the halves, take the top half off. And then your pendulum will come in a box similar to this. It's just a single fold. You unfold it. It'll be taped in depending on the day and the guy that does it, either here or here, maybe both. And then also with tape across the bob right here. This is your pendulum bob. There's no protection over it other than either paper or some type of foam packing slip. So don't cut along here when you're opening it. You need to make sure you carefully cut here or up here, or if you can, get your nail under it and peel it back from both sides. Sometimes this thing rests in a little indentation down here. Sometimes when you're trying to pull it out, it can be difficult to pull it out of there. Just take your time, because that's the nut for your fast-slow adjustment, so you don't want to damage that. All right, there's going to be a box. That box is going to have your crown piece, which goes on the top of the clock, and it will also have your heirloom tube, which this is for the serviceman to fill out anytime he comes to service your clock, which really needs to be done about every 5 years so you can get the life expectancy out of the clock before you have to do major repair to it. I think there's also space on the top for you to fill out your information, and this is so your kids somewhere down the line inherit the clock. They know what's happened to it over the years. You'll have your instructions, and then you'll also get a baggie that has a couple screws and a plastic strap in it. That is for if you live somewhere like California where you get earthquakes, so you can strap the thing to the wall. You don't really need it unless you have to worry about that one particular problem. If the clock's set up right, even the kids, if you got kids running around the house, shouldn't be able to knock it over. All right, so this is the actual pendulum. It's out of the box because we already had our Diana model here set up. It has this crystal cut glass in it. So one of the things you'll want to do before you start putting the clock together is, on any of the clocks Howard Miller sends out, they have some weird film, milky film that gets on the glass in their factory. Go ahead and clean all the glass before you start putting it back together, because once you have it together, you don't have to take it apart to clean the glass. So once you have that done, you'll get to setting the clock up. I use just a cotton cloth. This is a microfiber, but any type of cloth to handle the brass. If your clock is new, if it's been built in the last 50 years, if you bump into this, touch it, it's not going to hurt the brass. It's lacquered. If you touch it, wipe it off, and you're fine. Any of the brass should be like that on any of the clocks built in the last 50 years. Give some unique models that are out there by one-off manufacturers. So, some of the tools you'll need, just a trusty level here. I just used a razor to open the boxes. You can use a knife, whatever you have handy. Some type of side cutter will also cut most of the plastic, but you'll need some type of knife to open the styrofoam box and to cut the pendulum free out of the box. And then a pair of pliers. Now these pliers, and the reason I have this clock laying down over here, are because when Howard Miller finishes this clock, they put the feet in immediately. And it's got 4 adjustable feet. And sometimes they put them in and they start sticking. Now most of these are free because I've had this one set up. However, I did not have to run this one out. to set it up here in the store. Sometimes you can crack it loose like I just did if your hands are strong enough. If not, you'll need those pliers to crack it loose. These are pretty easy to turn, so once you have the clock set up, you can use the level to level the case. This one particular clock, the only flat spots on it that aren't curved or slanted backwards or slanted forward is this base right here. So you can lay the level like this. I'm gonna grab it real quick. So using this one right here, you can lay this level with the clock standing up like so and get an accurate measurement. You can also put it on the lip like so down here. Everything else on this clock is slanted one way or another, so that's the only place you're going to get an accurate reading is using this base somehow to do that. Now the good thing is that on these newer clocks, the level is not 100% necessary. It's more of an aesthetic thing. If you get it really close, the clock is still going to work. All right, now I'm going to go over a couple things that you might run into. Nothing big. This is what the inside of your clock looks like. It's made by Kenninger. Essentially, this is what you're getting right here. All right. Now, I've got this out because when you go to put your clock together, you're going to have a pulley like this and a cable like this, and there's going to be 3 of them. I don't have them all set up because you really don't need it to understand this. The only reason I have this out is sometimes in setting the clock up, this end can fish its way up and out. Your pulley will fall off of the cable and you'll have to put it back on. What you do is you just slide the pulley back on there like so, and you'll have to use a flashlight, and it may take some effort, but there's a hole up there big enough for the knotted end to fit through, and then comes back down, and then the pulley flips over like so on top of the cable. All right. If you're careful, it probably won't happen. Kenninger's pretty good about the way they build this, and you know, this is an older one. They actually taped it at that time, but the Howard Miller ones aren't taped. Also, holding all these pulleys in place, when you look in the clock, there's going to be a chunk of styrofoam underneath there, about like so, all the way across flat. There's no easy way to deal with this piece of styrofoam. I believe the instructions say to go ahead and hang the weights on it, because you can do so, and if you start the clock up and let it run, the styrofoam will become more free and you might be able to fish it out. The problem is styrofoam is lodged between each one of these cables in between here. So the easiest thing I've found is if you reach behind the styrofoam, you can actually just crack the styrofoam. It's going to get little bits of styrofoam everywhere. You're going to have to get the vacuum cleaner out and suck it up. It's just the way it is. You just need to find a way to get the styrofoam off of there. Either letting it come down and then trying to shimmy it out of there in between the cables, or just cracking the back off. The back is kind of perforated, and you'll feel it if you stick your hand back there, and you can just force crack it. You're not going to hurt the clock doing it. You might get some vibration through the case and hear the chime rods rattle around, but don't worry about that. The worst thing that's going to happen is this thing here I told you about, and you'll have to get a flashlight out and find a way to fish that up in there. On the Diana, it's pretty far up there, so take your time getting that styrofoam off. All right. The only other thing is on the weights. As you can see, they're labeled right, center, left, depending on which side of the box you open. They may be flip-flopped in there, but it doesn't matter. This is your right, center, and left as you face the clock. So when you're facing the clock, this is your heaviest weight. It goes on the right-hand side. This is your center weight. It goes in the middle. And this is your lightest weight. It goes on the left-hand side. And so now I'm going to go ahead and stand the clock up, and we're going to start putting it together. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and set the clock up now that you've seen all the parts to it. Again, all the feet on the bottom are adjustable. What you're gonna do to start with is find the short leg where the wobble is and run it out. Now it's not gonna have any wobble in it. You're gonna grab your level. And again, on this model, normally you can use the side and front of the clock to find the level. But on this model, there's no flat spot except for this base. So the way I do it is I'll stand the level up like this on the side and use this top piece right here. And then you can also do the left and right, set it on this edge right here, and use the middle one to find center. Now it's pretty close. Since this is for demonstration, I'm not going to go ahead and level it out perfectly. We'll go ahead and start setting it up. If you want to come around here, I'm going to show them the plugs and everything. Now, this clock has 2 lights in it, so you're going to have a whole bunch of cords. I've seen this shipped where it's wadded up like this up here, and I've also seen it shipped where it's inside this back panel. No matter what, go ahead and take the back panel off on both sides, just so you can see what you're doing. And you're going to start by unpacking the clock. If this is inside, go ahead and bring it out. It's notched. You're just going to lay it in there. And then in the bottom down here with Velcro is the second part to the light. This piece plugs into here like so. And then this side plugs into your outlet. So if you want to use the light, make sure you get it somewhere near the outlet. This is your on-off switch. It's just a typical roller switch. It comes with this little bracket here. It's got double-sided tape on it, so you can put it on the side somewhere, easy to get to so it doesn't fall back behind the clock. So after you get it where you want it, get it leveled, get all the electronic part plugged in. Again, that's just for the light. You're going to go ahead and take the packing out of it. Now, you can either put the panels back in and just do this for the front, or you can do this with the panels out looking at the back of it. In the Diana, I suggest before pushing it up against the wall, getting the packing out of it and looking through the back. Come around to the front here. Grab your door key out of the box. Door key goes in, you're going to open it. Now, when you open this door, what you're going to see is there's going to be a piece of styrofoam right here. I don't have it because we already had this one set up. But as explained earlier, you're going to see it, and the only way to really get it out of there easily is it's going to be a solid piece in the front. You're going to have to reach behind it, you're going to feel perforations in it, and you're not going to hurt anything. You just got to put some force on it and crack those perforations loose. Just keep cracking everything until these are free. Get your vacuum cleaner out, suck up the styrofoam, and then what you'll see is this tab hanging down here. And the reason on this clock you want to be able to see through the back of it is because you're pretty much just going to pull straight down on this, and it's going to free up the chime rods. So when you go to pull this out, you're supposed to be able to just pull this straight down, and what that does is it frees up the chime rods. You want to be careful doing that, because even though these black rods are kind of thick down here, up inside the clock in the back, they're thin and they can crack off. So keep this, if you're a kind of person that moves around or plan to move in the future, keep this to put it back on there. Now, this one's been broken loose, but there's a whole bunch more cardboard that comes up here with little ears on it. You can come around here on the back side. Can you get inside of here? Those little ears come up around the hammers and the rods up in here, and what you're going to be doing is you're going to be pulling down, and it's going to be pulling all that cardboard with it. Now, it's designed where it's all supposed to pull out smoothly. You may have to put a little pressure on it, but it should pull straight down. If you're getting a lot of resistance, you'll want to come back here and try to unfold any of that cardboard that's up here out of the way before pulling it down, because you don't want to bend these hammers, because those are your chime rod hammers. You'll wind up not getting the tone you want if they get bent when you're pulling that cardboard out. Alright, you got the cardboard out, you got the styrofoam off, you got the clock plugged in, you're going to push it back against the wall where you want it, you're going to level the clock out. Now, If you got it on tile, anything hard, you can use all 4 feet to level the clock out. Now, if you're putting it on carpet, my suggestion is that it goes flat up against the wall. And the reason being is it allows you to use the top of the clock to stabilize it. Now, this is just a rough cut. I mean, a piece of foam that we have here. You can cut the box up it came in and stack it, but this is designed to sit like so. And the reason being is if you have it on carpet and you put it flat up against the wall, you can run the 2 front feet out really, really far so that the clock leans backwards, and you would just use those 2 front feet to level it left and right, and then push the base of the clock, the very bottom of it, up against your molding or your wall, if you don't have molding, and then use something like this to shim it out so that this is another point of contact up here. That way you got 2 points in the front and 1 up here, and it's leaning against that wall. That's way more stable than it sitting on all 4 feet on the carpet with thick pad, because it will want to wobble around. If you're going caddy cornered, you're going to have to just try to level the thing out best you can. It'll still work, but when you walk around it, when you go to wind it, it'll have more of a tendency to wobble a little bit if you don't do it straight up against the wall using some type of brace to lean it against the wall. All right. So now we're going to put it together. You can come around. Alright, so now we're going to be hanging the pendulum in there. That's the first thing you're going to do once you have it leveled and where you want it. Carefully fish it in there. My camera guy here, Ian, is helping hold the door because this door swings up, so it's a little bit harder to hold. So what you're going to do is you have to get it in there and feel around. Now I'll show you what you're going to be hanging it on here in a second, so you know what to feel for. Alright. Take your time doing that. Now let's go over here to this other movement I have sitting out here, and I'll show you the piece that you're hanging it on. So on the back side of the movement, this bar fits on like so and has a little spring right here. Actually, it goes on like this. What you're doing, this is the piece you're feeling for up there. All right, it's got a brace up here. That's what this piece is right here that I took off to keep you from really doing any damage, as long as you're careful while you're feeling around. This is one of the things that makes the Diana hard to set up, because you can't see this like you can in most clocks. So feel around up there before you go fishing the pendulum up there. Find this with one hand, and with the other hand raise the pendulum up there and guide the hook into this right here, and you want the pendulum to slide in there and then sit inside this little crutch right here. Take your time. Even if it takes you an hour to get it right and you have to walk away, just do it slowly and everything else will go fine. Also, you should be able to get a flashlight and look around up in there. If you can bend over like that and look inside of there and see it so you know where you're grabbing for. Alright, after that, we're going to go ahead and hang the weights on there. These weights, the bands, if yours comes with bands, it has a seam on it. The way these hooks are screwed in, you can actually hold this and spin that band around on there in case it doesn't line up right. Again, like I said with the brass, this is all lacquered, so if you touch it, no big deal, just wipe it off afterwards. You want to make sure all your pulleys are upright. So in taking that styrofoam out, if they wind up down like this, all you have to do is flip that pulley back up on the cable like so. You're going to take your right hand weight and hang it on your right hand side like so. Take the middle weight, or it says center on it, I believe, on these. Center weight. Hang it in the center. And then your left hand weight, and you'll know this one's lighter than all the other ones. So if they ever get mixed up, if the tags come off the bottom over the years, just remember the left is lighter than the other two. And then your left hand weight. All right, then you're going to go ahead and start the clock. Pendulum, and the reason you don't have to have this thing perfectly level is because it's got a built-in clutch in it. So if you take this pendulum to one side of the case, and it may bounce off the other, but it's not strong enough to crack anything, even if there's glass over there, you're going to let it go and swinging it almost as wide as you can, maybe a 1/4 inch, a 1/2 inch from one side of the case, no matter what clock you're setting up, will allow that clutch to even out, to have a nice even tick in the clock. Once you have that done, then we're down to setting it. You can come up a little bit closer here. Alright, so this clock it only plays Westminster, so this is your chime side. Your chime is either in the up position, which turns the music off, or it's in the down position where it plays music. And it's going to play every 15 minutes, and then on the hour it's going to strike whatever hour it is. This side over here controls your nighttime silent on it. If it is in the up position, the clock is going to play 24/7. If it is in the down position, it's going to turn off at 10 p.m. and come back on at 7:15 a.m. We're going to go ahead and leave it in the down position so we can find out if we're in the AM or PM. And the way we do that is right now this is at 3 o'clock. So I'm going to take it to 3:15, nothing. 6, nothing. 3:45, nothing. 4 o'clock, nothing. Now I bet I'm going to go ahead and go through one more hour making sure nothing happens. But that means that is 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. We're going to hit 6 a.m. and then we're going to hit 7 a.m. You'll probably hear something happen when you pass the hour. You'll hear a little click. Now we're going to come down here to 7:15, and that should be the first time we hear the chime. So, if this is in the night off position, and you're setting this clock up, and you are anywhere between the 10 and the 7, and you don't get any chime for 2 hours, that means you're in the 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. position. If you're getting chimes through here, that means that's 10 a.m. through 7 p.m. Alright, and that's important because if you're going to use the nighttime shutoff and you have it backwards, you're going to get music all night and not during the day. So, bear that in mind. Also, if it's in the nighttime shutoff position, the weights that control the strike and the chime are not used for 9 hours out of the day or the evening, which is the right hand weight controls your chime, the middle one's your time, and the left one is the strike on the hour. So this one in the middle is going to be running constantly, 24/7. The outside two, if you're using the night off, will not be used for 9 hours, so they're not going to drop as fast as the middle one. Now, if you have it playing 24/7, they should all fall relatively equal to each other. The only thing left to do here really is set the time, and then we'll put the crown on it on the top of this piece right here, and you should be good to go. So setting the chime on this, you got two options. If you're close to where you're going, you can take the minute hand and only the minute hand and stop every 15 minutes and let it chime. Now it's not chiming here because it's resequencing itself because I was messing with it earlier. Now if you have a big distance to go, and what the instruction manual will tell you is that you are allowed to take this long minute hand and turn it backwards. Alright? Now, it's not supposed to chime when you're turning it backwards. However, it almost always chimes when you take that minute hand backwards past the hour. So the rule is if you know it's going to chime, or if you're moving the hand backwards and you hear it start to chime, you need to stop and let it finish what it's doing and then carry on from there. If you don't, it's like shifting the car without using the clutch. You can damage it. Never move the short hand. If you're moving the minute hand around and you bump this thing, doesn't matter if it's 1 hour, 4 hours, the clock has no idea where it is. So, like I just moved that forward forward an hour, it's always going to be an hour off now. All right, until someone comes back there and corrects it. So try not to do that. Last but not least is putting the crown on it. Crown has 2 tabs, top of the clock. It has 2 tabs, you just kind of got to feel around and line it up like that, and you're in business. The only other thing I'd mention is that this does have 2 light bulbs in it. They're standard light bulbs, they're picture frame bulbs. They do create heat. There is oil in the clock. The oil needs to be cleaned out and changed every 5 years. However, if you're using the lamps inside the clock regularly, you may need to have it cleaned every 2 to 3 years because that heat dries up the oil. An option to this is to get on something like Amazon and see if you can find a LED style picture frame bulb to replace those with, because they don't get nearly as hot. So you can put it in there and turn it on all day if you want to without worrying about heat. And that's the setup on the Diana. It pretty much works for all the clocks that Howard Miller makes, with the exception of the J.H. Miller with the 9 tube in it. That's a little different, because everyone else that they make is going to be easier than this one to set up, because you can see through the side of it and access the side of the clock to remove any packing that's in there. You can find us at mcguiresclocks.com. The phone number is 512-452-4558, and we're on Facebook at McGuire's Clocks. Thank you.